Hi, mate. Welcome back.
We're having a challenging time, haven't we? It's been fun the
I know what you
last,
mean.
feels like 17 hours we've been trying this, but it's good. We're
Well,
there now, aren't we?
I think the first time we came on, I was talking. I couldn't remember if it was a week and a half ago, like last week, we met with Lee Walker. But it feels as if I've been on trying to mess about with the volume and all these settings, mate,
Yeah,
since we got off the call to Lee Walker. I don't
pretty
feel as if
much.
I've moved, mate. Like it's just utterly madness. Never mind, eh?
But
But
usually it's been my end, and you're the techie guy, and you've been trying to talk me through and solving whatever tech issue.
unbelievable, isn't it? Like
Oh,
absolutely mad. Like I
anyway.
can't get around it. I've tried to make things better, and as always, I've made things worse. I'm sure there's a lesson there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, there could be. You need a mind coach to try and see if they can find the answer to that.
yeah, well, I knew this bloke called Noel once, but he wasn't very good, so I got rid of him. But no,
So,
I mean, obviously, it's good to jump on. I mean, before the big fella comes and do another video, I think we've been really happy, haven't we, about how the videos have gone, in particular, the sort of the interview we had with Lee Walker. And if anybody's not seen that interview we did with Lee, who's just an unbelievable coached the sort of the biggest names: Mark Williams, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Jack Lazowski, Mark Allen, you name it, he's worked with them. Um, and we go into sort of we talk about his career, how he struggled, how he worked with Noel, and that led to sort of winning the World Seniors title and what he found beneficial. Um, and then the nutritional element of it. And there was some really good insights and some really good messages we had off the back of it. And I think it was, for me, quite useful because I know from a personal perspective, I find those things not just sort of mindset, but with a lot of things, I think it's good, isn't it, to hear people who have been professional players and played against the best and are now working in such an elite environment, essentially say they've got the same problems and think the same as you. And although that doesn't necessarily solve the problem, for me, it provides that little bit of comfort and reassurance that I'm not actually alone on those problems. And I think sometimes you can feel like that, can't you, as a player? Like you think, actually, is it just me? Is it just me that's having these problems? Is it just me who's been putting in all these practice and work with
yeah,
technical stuff, but I'm getting there and
yeah,
I'm missing? And it's just a problem with me, and I'm not good enough, and I need to, do something and change something. When actually, every player in the world since Q Sports began have had these problems. It's such a difficult game, but that's what we obviously want to do here is talk about it, isn't it? And share our experiences and our tips and tricks and methods that we've used to have success with players across all different sports. So I'm glad it went down well. And if people's just obviously listening to this for the first time, go and give that interview a watch and give Lee a follow, because he is at the very top of what he does in the technical aspect. And so that was fantastic. And then the Q tips, Stephen Hendry Q tips came out, and our very own Noel got a very good mention from Mark Williams, which is fantastic, to be honest, mate. I mean, you've got to be incredibly happy with that. I know you're modest and you're not going to blow your wad. Well, not maybe on a live. You'll do it obviously on a call to me, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, obviously for somebody who is undoubtedly, I mean, there's no debate, Rage, one of the greatest players to ever pick up a cue. I think for him to
yeah.
turn around and say that you've helped them, and more certainly helped them win matches, I think is firstly a testament to you, but then is also, I think, again, going back to that reassurance and whatever else. If we can have an impact at Q Sports Hub on one of the greatest players ever by advising them, then what does that say if anybody else using the hub? I think it's a really, really good review for Q Sports Hub and what we do, and in particular what you do on your side to help players, because, like I said, if that can help one of the greatest players ever, then we know we're doing something right. So well done on that, mate, because that's a fantastic achievement. Um,
It was
do you want to
amazing, wasn't it?
have any thoughts, mate? Just to hold
It,
the
it, it,
interview
it,
up and the
it,
microphone up and interview you. You have any thoughts on that?
It was fun. I mean, obviously, we knew it was filmed a couple of weeks ago, and we knew what was coming out because obviously Walker had kind of foretold. But obviously, you don't know what's going to get cut out or not, But yeah, it was fun. Obviously, the Q-tips things, absolutely enormous. Probably the biggest YouTube series that there is, and quite rightly so. But yeah, excuse me. But yeah, it was incredibly humbling, to get asked to help, even although I'm kind of, I mean, I don't know if you'd say it friends, but we certainly know each other quite well, myself and Mark, and just getting asked to help him with this, was really really good, and as I say, it was just over video, and it also proves, like, I think, just that the video content, that medium works, because it wasn't like a one-to-one session. Even though we spent a lot of time with each other. The time I was asked, it was mid-tournament, maybe about a year ago, and it was, to sort something out. But like I say, like Lee says in the video, it's like, maybe Chinese takeaway, chicken chow mein maybe wasn't the ideal thing. My word, but it's something. I mean, it's better than nothing. But certainly, he seems to be eating bananas and stuff, and some better things. But he's just no fuel in his body and his mind. He just was setting himself up to fail, really,
Yeah.
and not understanding why.
And,
But
he, and
some,
sorry, mate. I was going to say he's not alone on that either. And that it was interesting to hear Hendry said sort of he wouldn't eat a lot on game days, and I mean game days sometimes can be a little bit trickier purely because you've got a lot of nerves and that can suppress the appetite, and you can get away with it to a certain degree on appetite, even though you need to be eating, and that's going to improve performance. But you can understand players thinking they can get through it, but until you actually try and eat something and then you're starting to fuel performance, you realize then actually that's what I've been missing. But in particular, there's a lot of players that actually just don't eat when they're practicing. They'll go into practice and they'll just go all day and they'll not eat. And I'm thinking mentally that's just challenging. I know from even from my end, try and sort of to practice and then you're not eating, you become really irritable first and foremost, and that's
yeah,
never going to be good. Irritability in playing cue sports is just one of the worst things you can have. So if you're not eating and fueling that mindset and fueling your brain, it's that shift in mindset of if I want to be a cue sport player ultimately at any level and to get better, and you're applying yourself practice wise, is you have to then do everything around it, from the mindset to fuel and performance to hydration, because there's still this huge gap I feel in particular in cue sports where you don't look at performance as a whole. It's everything's done on the
exactly.
side
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the table, but not actually looking and thinking the brain and the trying to then fuel your brain that needs food, it needs hydration.
yeah,
And
yeah,
although I said sort of, I think in the last video, one of the previous ones, of it doesn't take much googling or research to work out how much of an impact dehydration and lack of nutrients has on the brain, yet it's the most taxing mental sport in the planet to play any form of cue
yeah.
sport. And so to then not fuel your body is
Criminal,
quite,
really, isn't
yeah,
it? I mean, we're
yeah,
burning calories all the time. I mean, just sat here now, I'm burning calories as you are.
yeah,
Obviously we burn more calories if we stand up, but and or walk and run, etc., etc. It goes up and up and up.
yeah,
But it was quite telling, twofold. There was a much bigger picture that you would have seen, obviously having worked in other elite sports, but it also told a bit of a story in twofold, because tells you again, and we go through this in the hub where snooker's at, that here we've got, like in Hendry, world class player winning all those titles, and he wasn't eating on match day. Now, if you take that into, say, even a relatively less physical sport, like you could go into tennis and stuff, football, they're never in a million years going to get away with that. Never in a million years. They might get away with it in George Best's day, but you're not getting away with it now because everybody's doing that properly. So the standards come up. And it's exactly the same like saying tour golf. I mean, they're just walking. Okay, you know, they're walking 6-7 miles during the course of a golf game, and obviously, you know, that's going to be burning some calories. But I mean, I don't know if players have done this, but I've done this. Like, pop my phone in my back pocket whilst I've been on the table for a day, you know, picking balls out, and I've done 10K in an afternoon, round the table picking balls up. You know, so it's like, you know, it's just shy of 7 miles. So it's like much same as what the golfers doing. In the golf world, they'll never, ever, ever get away with it. And yet Stephen was back then in snooker, which tells you where the sport's at.
Yeah.
But as I say, and then obviously snooker's coming on from Stephen's day, because now Willow was finding that he was no longer getting away with it. He was getting away with it for many, many years. And then suddenly he wasn't. And there's a downturn in performance, well, more upturn in performance from everybody else. And it's like, right, I need to be at my best here in order to compete my absolute best. Can he be hoping for doing things? So obviously, you know, mastering those basics and coming in like that, you know, is like really, really, really key. And generally, I just find I don't think I've ever worked with a player 1-to-1 now, and it's been hundreds now, where I've had a player who's ate and hydrate properly. He just absolutely not got a chance. And it's like even before we came on today, like the first thing when you messaged me earlier to do this, you know, the first thing I did was have a pint of water, and I'm doing more now because it's just I'm going to think clearer, you know, and I'm going to be able to comment on things in a better way. I'm going to perform better during the course of this. So yeah, no, it was really key, really cool, and it's been, you know, even in the last 24 hours, you know, the number of messages we've had off the back of it as well, you know, folk haven't seen that message that we'll put on the video. It's incredibly humbling, you know. It's really cool to be able to make a difference to somebody who's already, you know, so phenomenal in their game, but partly because his mindset's so good, and you can see that. And do go and click and watch that. We'll put a link below to it, James. But it's like to Stephen's channel because it's such a good interview, and he starts to talk about his mindset a bit as well, and you can understand why he's so good. Just phenomenal,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, obviously today, I mean, we've had a bit of a recap, bit of an introduction, but you have a good topic to sort of talk about, which was again part of doing these videos, was trying to really give some valuable insights and talk about some real key topics and things that players struggle with and how we can help players. So if you want to introduce that topic, and then we can have a good chat about it and hopefully provide some really good information to people to help them improve the game.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, and it just ties into the video we both watched yesterday. You know, we Willow. You know, I mean, you know, his mindset is so good, and he's so kind of relaxed around the table, and generally it's something that, you know, players are struggling with. You know, just dealing with that pressure of the event, and you know, and they're going to pieces, and it's like, you know, they're just seeing a marked downturn in their performance and practice, and I think especially elite pool players and elite snooker players and into WST, you know, that there are numbers on the practice table during a practice day, you know, as we keep data all the time, you know, we'll fill in a diary if I'm 1-to-1 with a player for the day, and we'll keep a tab of the scores and stuff. And it could be, you know, like we might have played against a ghost, a fictional character. You know, we might have played, you know, best of 19, or, you know, even a best of 11, right? And we might have done two best of during the course of the day. So we've done 22 frames, and it's like, right, how many of those frames did we knock in a 50 plus weight? and generally, you know, could be 40, 50, 60% of the frames that we played were knocked in a 50 plus. But yet, if you go into Q track at the end of WST season, the best in the world are 45 to 50% of the frames they played in the season when they get 50 plus. But yet, so many of these players are performing at those kind of numbers in practice, so they're matching the best in the world. We'll be out, okay, just for today. It's not over the course of a season. So they're more than capable of matching those numbers, but yet when you look in Q Tracker and look at their stats for the season, they're maybe at half that or under 20% of frames that they played, they've knocked in a 50 plus. So the performance is clear to see. You know, there's a marked kind of downturn. And you must see that. You must see this, like with the players that, you know, you've worked with as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's something, as you know, that I'm quite big into is that side. So I'll often watch a lot, I watch a lot of snooker and Q sports in particular. I'll always watch the players that I look after. I'll always watch their games because I just think it's important to see where the players are and you see where they're improving and how they're doing. And then I'll always go and look at the scores and I'll look at other player scores to see how they're doing and how they're scoring. So, for example, someone like Joe O'Connor, who I work with, his results don't this season don't reflect how he's been playing because he's made massive improvement. I mean, he was playing some unbelievable snooker at the back end of last season, but then this season, one thing that he's certainly improved on is his consistency and scoring heavier, and he looks a real threat now. And it's something I think he would probably admit. Maybe last season he would score heavy, but not consistently. When now he's doing a lot more consistently, and you can sort of track that through looking at breaks and the consistency of it, and you know sort of that something's potentially going to happen because you've identified potentially a problem, and then you see and the work come through, and you can see that consistency of the breaks.
Yeah.
And by looking at that, you know that individual games can be tough because it all always depends. There's so many different variables, which I know you talk about in all the videos, and when you work on one-on-one with players, but you can be playing the best snooker in the world, and you might turn up, you might get a very difficult qualifying game, you might meet somebody who has the game of their life, you might have a bad run of the balls, you just might be coming down with a bug, you might have been on a flight coming back from China and had to play in a couple of days, and you're jet lagged, and all of these different things affect your performance. But if you're consistently putting that practice in and consistently improving, eventually the results are going to start coming. And I think you can see that with the likes of Joe, which would be a very good example of that, where the standard and consistency of his breaks is getting so much better, and the results just aren't really there now to match that. But people are having up their games considerably against them, and I think it's a matter of time before he's back to quarter, semis, final again. I really do, because you can just see in his game, he's just solid everywhere. But looking at the data, mate, yeah, you can see that. And similarly, you look at other players and you look and think, yeah, when was the last time they even got a 50 break? And they're losing frames left, right, and you're going through the games and you're looking and thinking. There was one player I looked at who I think went through 3-4 games and they played quite a significant number of frames and hadn't made 150 break. And you look and think, you can have all the same game in the world and stuff, but if you're not producing at that level, you're not going to get it alive. And then becomes a thing of, well, is that player able to produce them? And the answer is absolutely, because they do consistently in practice. So it then becomes, why are they not then able to produce that consistently in the game? And the answer
Exactly.
is clear and the obvious. If you're not able to if you're able to do it in practice, not put in there, it's then not a technical problem, because you can do it in practice repeatedly, and you're not only knocking 50s, you're knocking 80s, 90s, 100s, and you're doing it consistently. But when you're not then doing it in the game, to me, there's a quite obvious problem from a mindset perspective of why you then can't deliver that within a game. Yeah, I mean, I've gone off on one there about data, mate. But yeah, I think that's, to me, it's important as a player, and I'm sure a lot of players do that. But I think for some of the players that are playing at a more amateur level, that are on the hub, and that we work with or we advise or whatever, that if you're not looking at data and you're not keeping a track of data and your scores, in particular in practice, then how are you ever going to measure that success on to really be able to identify problems? Because it's one thing telling yourself you're not missing balls, you're not doing this, but you've got nothing to actually refer back to. And I think that's quite important. It's something that I did personally, because I think I said to you before, I would always, I mean, my levels way below sort of pro standard, but I've just got a bug to get better. And I would always set myself a challenge of years ago, is a lineup, and I had to get a 50. I had to get a 50 before I went home. And that was always my barometer until I got better of how much I was improving. And I could tell on certain days, some days I would go in and hit on the first break. And then, I would make 5-10 breaks of sort of over 50. And then other days, either when I hadn't been putting the practice in or been struggling or was run down, or I would go in, I could tell my brain was fried. And an hour later, and I didn't have a 50. And that would drive me insane. But what it would also do was put pressure on me to then be able to produce. And that actually in turn helped me get better, because I was creating sort of a pressure environment in a practice environment to be able to get better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was actually, creating pressure, because I was like, right, well, I'm not going home. I'm not going home until I get it. And I mean, there was only ever the odd couple of occasions where I did have to go home and not get it. But more often than not, I would always get it. But I always found that was really good and really challenging, because then mentally you would get frustrated because you weren't getting it. And because if I missed, I always had to set it back up again. That was also the rule. So if I was getting 4 or 5 pots in, and then I was like missing, putting it back again, and then you're starting to get frustrated, but it helped manage emotions. And you have to think, right, 2 seconds, I want to go home here. So I'm going to have to calm down a bit and think about it and relax a bit. And but that's also, I mean, a little side topic. That's also a really interesting one, because from a mindset perspective, because once I would get one, I would then just go on to get another one.
Yeah.
The pressure that I was putting on me to get it was actually make me miss balls, because once it went in, it was like, get back down and just play again and play again, and not breaks. And but going back, mate, then I would always keep the track, because that was my barometer to know if I was playing well or getting better. And I could come away and think, right, well, I'd made an 80, a 90, this. And then when I knew when I was playing really bad, where I was struggling to sort of get that 50, I always had to have a barometer and a track of where I was at as a player, because I don't know where that came from. I think probably just years of playing different sports in elite environments where it was just sort of ingrained, and I just thought, right, I want to do that for nobody other than for me, to be honest. Yeah, but I mean, going back to sort of your question, mate, because I mean, I've gone off on one there, but
that's right. No, it's good. But certainly, I find like it's certainly a key difference between, like we touch on in the hub. For me, the sports setting the standard are F1 and English Premiership football, I would say. And these sports are very, very. They've got what's called a feedback loop, and they're very much looking at data. And the data tells you a number, and the number doesn't lie, because the number tells you whether you're worse or better in whatever the chosen area is. And so, like, they're literally using thousands of data points to try and chase certain numbers in certain areas. And I just find, like, other sports, like Q Sports, is just incredibly backward on that. And it's not that the data doesn't exist, because, Q Tracker's pretty solid, and the golfers are doing this stuff, like a lot. But in terms of like keeping that data when they're practicing and seeing like a marked difference, like you pointed out, therefore, if they can do it in practice but not in the event, the issue can't be a technical one. But yet they think, well, I'll tell you what, I'll change my tip. Maybe that'll sort it. Yeah, but you're getting the numbers in practice. It's like, it's quite bizarre. But as I say, like, really, at the end of the day, it's because the event is special. And we'll go into this a little bit just now, but obviously we'll go into it massively more detail in Q Sport Hub. But basically, they're making the event special. There's their happiness is completely linked to scoreline, a player's happiness, and it's like completely linked to, I'm only going to enjoy this and I'm only going to have a good time if the scoreline is X. And they're choosing that. So it's like a choice. When in actual fact, the reality is they're not in control of the scoreline through numerous, God, we could be here all day and what they're not in control of. But most of, you're not in control of the opponent, because if he has the best game of his life, you're getting sent home. And that's all there is to it. So what's the answer then? So, like, if the pressure is coming from a be about result, about outcome, what's the answer? Well, the outcome is, again, God, we're giving away a lot here, aren't we? But never mind, we'll do that anyway. but basically, the answer is to not be about outcome. The answer is to be about process. We do this, this, and this to take the shot, and that's all there is to it. And then you go on to the next shot and you do this, this, and this, and you take a shot. Then you go into the next shot and you keep doing that. And it's like the old analogies, mainly from the golf world, about it's all about one shot at a time. It's so true, but it's almost too blasé. It's like players have heard that. They've been told that from other people and coaches and the rest of it, but it ends up being, it's so oversaid almost that it's like it just becomes like it's just like making it kind of blasé and unimportant, when actually it's everything, because it's all about this moment and what this shot means, i.e. you winning the rack or winning the trophy or getting through to the semi-final or whatever it means. It's completely irrelevant. But the very fact that there's a performance differential between practice and the event means you're not about process, you're about results. And you're trying to win the game, which is something that you're not in control of. So in order to be all in about process, that takes a mindset. So if you get the mindset right, you'll start doing process and not results. And if you do that, then you'll get the results anyway. So really, what we try and do in the hub in great detail, and we're just skimming over the surface of it here, is what we're plumbing into players as would be the norm in Premiership football. There's a great, if you Google it, there's a great interview with, God, I can't pronounce his name, the Spurs manager, ex-Celtic, Ange is his nickname, right? Ange, Big Ange, right? I can't begin to, I'm not even going to attempt his second name. Begins with a P. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, Postecoglou. I think that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a great video of him talking to his players, and he's gone on about exactly that. Like it's all, we go out there to play the game, and that's why we're here. We're not here to win, because we're not in control of that. We're out there. You go out there and you try it, and you absolutely give everything, and you try your best, and you be absolutely right here, right now. You completely forget what's in the past. The players run past you with the ball. That's in the past. That's done. And you're rushing towards the goal mouth, and it's 3-3 and you're in the last minute of the game. It's completely irrelevant. You just follow the process. And so it's about getting players to disconnect from outcome the results and just being completely engaged in this moment. That's the task, just like a dog would be. That's why dogs are nailing it. They're not only buried in the moment, but they're also, completely detached to what happened yesterday, and they certainly don't give a shit about what's going to happen tomorrow. They're just absolutely nailing it. It's a good job they're not in Q Sports, or you guys would not be winning no trophies at all. My job wouldn't exist, because they're just nailing it. They're nailing it. They're the most perfect thing on the planet. And anybody that's got a dog right now at home, anybody that's got a dog is like nodding. It's like, yeah, that guy knows what he's talking about. Like, yep, that is absolutely right.
I can just say players just taking their tips from dogs there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Much more than I can ever teach him.
I'd be no good if Mark Williams licking his own nuts at the Crucible.
Which, to be fair, I think I've heard stories about that. Yeah. Well, mind he did that interview naked. That's a very Mark Williams thing to do.
Yeah, we'll charge him for that bit of advice anyway.
But basically, at its core, that is really it in a nutshell. That is what's going on. That's why there's a difference between performance at the event and performance off the table, is because you're starting to be about outcome, about you're worried about the result, and you're just dragging an anchor around with yourself, and it's just making life, incredibly challenging. I'm sure you must have even done that at a club level, like with your league matches and stuff, right?
What, you just focus too much on the result?
Well, you being nervous. I mean, that's the whole thing comes from. Everyone spells from that, like nerves, frustration, anger, everything, because you're all about the result.
Absolutely, yeah. But do you know what I think? And I mean, it's certainly the case for me. And I think I mentioned it might have been the first ever video we did on our channel, to be honest. And I mentioned about me sort of applying that to a business mindset, and I know that's something you're big on as well. With the hub is a very holistic thing. It's improving your well-being, and there's a lot of these areas ultimately that apply to life. And I think a lot of players struggle with things or performance on the table with things that's actually happening off the table. And I think that's it's finding the right problem and applying it. But it more certainly I found out in business, because obviously the world's full of everybody, all these gurus with sponsored ads telling you how you can make 100 grand a month doing this and selling this course and doing whatever, and you're going to be out in Dubai and you're going to have your big white flashy Range Rover and you're just going to be throwing money up in the air. And do you know what I mean? Like it's all fine. No, business is really easy, and it's not. And it's very similar to elite level sport. I find business, which is often why you find athletes are very good once to transition into some business environments, because there's a lot of similarities from a mindset point of view. But
Definitely.
You have to find a way where to put things to one side, and you have to find a way to move on. Like you mentioned there about just whatever's gone, when you're on about Postecoglou, somebody's gone past, it's in the past. You can't change that. That's something that I've had to practice and be very cognizant of for a long period of time. Is if bad things happen or frustrations happen, I have to look at what time I'm investing into that emotionally and think this isn't worth it. If I can't control that to do anything about it, why should I worry about it? Why should I let that be alive where it's affecting other elements? Because ultimately that has an impact on the finances of the business, which ultimately means I can't then feed my two kids and look after the bills and the mortgage. So then I have to be quite clinical and say, right, I have to push that to one side. And I think you get that with elite sport as well. You have to be able to sort of just move on from it. But like you said, it's trying to find that process, because that was very difficult for me, because I was sort of always probably a little bit in the middle, where you get players now, and I speak to a lot of players who was like, well, it's all about the result. And then they'll win and they'll play awful, and you'll speak to them, and but I didn't play well. And then they're frustrated because they didn't play well, but they got the result. So that didn't satisfy them because they didn't do it in the manner that they wanted to do, and they didn't really enjoy it, even though they got the result that they wanted. Do you find that's a problem with players?
Yeah, yeah. But again, like it all kind of stems from the same thing. I mean, it can be very challenging for players to make this shift because they've been doing things in such a certain way for such a long period of time. It's like we touch on with the hub. It's like players are buried in 50% of the game, and they're not understanding that. There's two halves to it. We've got skill set up here. There we go. It's like they're fabulous on the mechanical side. And they've been playing for a long, long time. So how else are they going to be? But the mental side of things is they're not understanding it's 50% of the game. It's two equal halves. So they're only skilled on one side. So it's no great shock, that they're not going to be able to kind of like nail this. Of course, So that there's just it's challenging, but really that there's some parts of like what we do, like on the hub. You say it's 10 quid a month mindset course, but and we make really really fast, quick changes with players, which is great. But some things obviously are so ingrained in players, and we're doing things in such a kind of set regimented way that like we really need to it's not going to be an overnight kind of process in terms of changing their forefront for that. I mean, it's all very easy and
Yeah.
well to get players to be about explaining to them, but you're only hurting yourself being about the result, and they get that and can understand that, but applying it is an entirely different thing, and that'll be as easy or as difficult as it'll be. Like like I've just no. I think like we're so well versed in this now. Me and James have been doing this for such a long time. Like I'm absolutely, I've got zero concern and nerves when a player comes on and saying like, do you think this course will help me? I'm like, good God, of course it's going to help you. It's like, of course, I've got fully kind of confidence in it. But really, to be honest, it's not down to us, and it's exactly the same when you do a one-to-one session with a player. That you can help them, but it's not. I'm not the defining factor there, because it's like stepping out the shower and I've handed them a towel. But if they decide to not use that towel in the correct manner, i.e., to stand on it instead or throw it in the corner, then they're still going to be soaking wet. You're not. We're not in charge of people using the tool correctly. We know the tool will work, but it's just about and a lot of using the tool correctly is just it's just patience. Is your forever. I'm terrible like this. I'm like James is the most patient one of the two of us. I'm very kind of super driven and I want the hub to be doing this like all the time. And James is like, no, it's fine. Keep doing what we're doing. And we're learning and things will get better and it'll slowly just kind of go like that. But yeah, but I want to go there. And that's very much kind of like my personality. And it's something I see in players like a lot as well. They're very hungry to succeed and to do like really, really well. But there's some changes that are really quick, like food intake for Willow, for example, right? Just a little bit of knowledge and a bit of discipline,
Yeah.
and it's done. That's it, done. Whereas the mindset side of things, it can take a bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some really good things in there, and we actually had that conversation, didn't we? I think it was what day were we on? It was a Friday last week where we sort of spoke about that, and you said you're more patient, and I said like I've never been like that. I'm really impatient, but I've had to learn over sort of again mindset coming back over many years of business and everything else by failures of because I'm very much like that where I want to go from 0 to 100 and think why can't we have it, but I have to be a little bit more pragmatic now and think, well, what you just said about the like snooker players or pool players, it's that process. thinking, right, well, we
Yeah.
have to put foundations in place, and we have to do this, and there's no fast track to that success. And as much as I would love them to be, there just isn't. But there's things that we can do within that are quicker fixes, and things that are going to work, well, and things that are going to help people very quickly. Like you said, the nutrition side of things, but you have to do them consistently. It's no good a player going and thinking, right, well, I don't eat when I'm practicing, so one day I'm going to eat when I practice. Brilliant. But then the rest of the week and forever into the future, they don't continue to keep that habit. It's irrelevant.
Yeah. They're done.
You
Exactly. Done.
get late
Yeah.
water coming in, and you struggle on a particular shot, and might be playing a certain shot with, like, say, reverse side or something, or playing a tricky shot coming off a couple of cushions, and he teach you how to do it, and you go through all these things. You do it once, and you go champion. That's it. That's it done. That's in the locker. I'll not need to practice that one again. You continuously then go and practice and practice and practice, and you embed that until it becomes just part of your shot selection, and it becomes second nature. And that's very much the mind. That's very much the mindset part of it. We have to practice that side. Like I've just mentioned there about doing it from a business perspective. It's very much a case of you have to make that part of the
It
practice.
it it, it really is. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, it's. I think we get some people who come onto the hub and they look and they think, well, I've gone through it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
um, you
But
know,
but but
that, that
I mean,
that's
you
me
say to a
done.
player, it's like that, like. Sorry, for those at home, James might be freezing a little bit here, but that's all right. We'll deal with that. Look, that's what we're here to do. We're here to roll with the punches.
Yeah,
But
can you
James
hear
is
me, mate?
cutting in and out a little bit there. But no, it is not a little bit, not so well. But basically, I mean, I can carry on a bit, but maybe yours will recover a bit. But again, it's like, like the game is kind of split in half. It's like right down the middle. Say you've got mechanical and mindset, so there's like both things. But success overall, because I work with a lot of CEOs and stuff as well. And again, like James had touched on, like the process is exactly the same. So like the work I do with CEOs is kind of showing that the process is exactly the same. But success in whatever you're trying to achieve is, in my view, and has proved to be the case many, many times, it's 90% mindset and 10% strategy. So from but see a businessman, it's 10% what he decides to do in the company and invest in this and that and grow in this department or whatever. But really it's all about a mindset, something that's successful mindset, and very kind of a lot of people, and we're all familiar with this, and this is kind of like proved to you how this will come, but we all know people who see nothing but problems. And that, to be honest, is very widespread, But it's like having that wherewithal to not see that, to only see solutions like all the time, and just kind of like rolling with things exactly as we're doing during this video. We're having a bit of technical issues, but it's like fine. We'll just roll with this. But I think what we'll do is, why don't we wrap it up from here? I mean, that's been 45 minutes. Is probably enough. I wish all yous a Merry Christmas. And thank you again so much for being on the channel and members of the hub. And if you're not on the hub already, click onto it. See, I'm sure this video would have helped you. And there's going to be so much more. It's in so much more detailed content. We're gone from there. But hopefully James can sign off.
I don't know. Am I back?
Sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
But no,
no,
good.
I think from my end, and I know from Noel's, thank you. I mean, it's that we've been live now for a year, and there's so much more to come in 2025. And I think for any player of any ability wanting to get better at Q sports, we aren't technical experts. We never profess to be technical
Nope.
experts.
No.
You know, obviously we had Lee on, and we'll continue to get people on that aspect. But this is for players who are capable technically, but players who are looking to improve the mindset. They know the mindset's letting them down. And they also are looking at the performance element, the nutrition, the hydration, other aspects of your game where you can gain that percentage and gain that advantage and improve your practice and improve your game and doing stuff that really nobody else in Q Sports is and are. So thank you to everybody who subscribed to the hub, and we'll continue to strive to make it better. And for anybody who's not give it a go, give it a go. You know, a couple of questions we get asked is about how it works, everything else. It's £9.99 a month. You know, we made it incredibly affordable because we genuinely want to help people. And if you're not happy, then you can cancel after a month. You know, we don't force people into contracts. That's not what the business is about. If we want to make money, we would have charged a lot more from it. We want to help people. And if you look at the quotes that's out there, and you know, there's more to come as well. It's helped a lot of people already, and it's still in its infancy. You know, we know it works because we've tried it with the very elite of the elite, and we've helped so many players across the spectrum of abilities and Q Sports. So yeah, if you after Christmas you've got time off and you've got some money off loved ones and you're looking to sort of invest that in your career, jump on the hub, give it a go. Worst case, you lose £9.99. And that's it. Given the price of tips and chalks and cues and everything else, if you're
exactly, I know.
We're essentially giving it away. We might as well parachute it down a chimney with Father Christmas and give it to everybody. Anyway, I'm starting to sound like a sour old man. That's pure these technical problems, but everybody have a great Christmas. I mean, if you're watching this after Christmas,
you too.
because I will be putting it out. If you're watching after Christmas, then I hope you had a good Christmas. If you're watching after New Year, I hope you had a good New Year. It's as far as I'm going to go because I'll be taking the piss if I go further than that. But have a great Christmas, everyone.
You too. Well done.
See you soon, mate. Bye.
Take care. Thank you.